Hey, welcome back to the show. We got another video on EQs today, and today I thought we use 3 separate different EQs and just dial them in using their own strengths and weaknesses to get a similar desired tone. And in this case, we're going to be using the Victory VX Kraken Mark II and dialing in a Slayer style tone, which is absolutely really cool. This is the raw style tone we've got right now with no EQ. You can hear by that it's a really cool foundation, but just needs a little bit of help just to give it that boost, just to get you into the Slayer territory. So what they did to get that crushing tone, they didn't use any overdrives or distortions in the front end. They just used EQs and just turned up the mids a whole lot and just boosted the whole front end of those amps. And you just get this really mid-rich signal that's almost like an overdrive. It just boosts those signals. It breaks up the front end, adds that little bit more gain and saturation, and it's exactly what they need. But I've just brought in 3 of my favourite EQs, not to play them off to see which one is best. I think all EQs have their strengths, weaknesses. They all have their own sound, their own personality. So it's not about which one's best, it's just what's best for you. But we'll just start with the MXR 6-band on the side. This is a really easy EQ to use. There's no volume, there's no gain setting. It's just an EQ, only 6 bands of it. But if you boost them up like that and you add it to that tone already, and that just adds a whole lot of aggression to the front end of this, just boosting around that 6 to 400 region. And then we get to the parametric EQ, and this is the Master Effects EQ from hell. And a lot of parametric EQs are just really intimidating to some people, just the way that they work, and they're not very visual at all. And that's sort of why I like them as well. You tend to use your ears. You don't just look at the dials, you use your ears and you dial in frequencies that you might not have actually got with slider EQs, and you can really focus frequencies, and they're really cool EQs. And in this case, we've just boosted the front end exactly the same. And you can see how I've set it up. I've got the gain on the bass just backed off a little bit. The gain on the mids is turned up a fair bit. And the gain on the trebles just up slightly. And under the gain dials, you've got the frequency dials that really focus the frequency peaks exactly where you want them to be along the line there. And so you can see on the higher bandwidth, we're actually backed off the frequency a little bit. So we're actually pushing those upper mids. And in the mid dial, we're actually pushing it forward and we're focusing again on those upper mids. So we really are just focusing around that 800 to 1K mark. And then the frequency for the bass, I've just brought it away so you get a little bit of separation on the line. And then under those, you've got the Q dials, which just change the width of each of those frequencies. And I usually start with those at all 12 o'clock and then just turn them last, just to really hone in the last little bit of the tone that I want. And lastly, with this one, you've got a volume knob. And this is really cool, as you can just turn up the saturation or bring it back. And I'll show you exactly how that works to get the most out of it. But again, this is the basic. And by turning that volume knob, you really are just fine-tuning that aggression in the amp. If we turn it up too much, things start to fart out. You can hear there that pushes it into a real flabby mess, so if you just back that off, you back it off too much and you lose too much gain. You got to find that happy medium. And you can see there that you can just really use that volume knob along with the gains and just really get that sweet spot where you focus in enough gain that it's nice and saturated but just not too much. But we get now to the MXR 10 band EQ, and both the other EQs are both 9 volt EQs, but this one's 18, has a little bit more headroom. It's got a gain adjustment as well as a volume adjustment and just 10 slider EQs. Really simple to use as well, but if you're boosting it in the front end, if you just have the volume and the gain sliders both set at 0 dB, you don't really add that much gain to the front end of the amp. All you're doing is just really boosting those signals. So I've found to get the most out of it as far as like an overdrive style tone, you back off the volume, you pick up the gain, and that just gets maximum aggression out of the front end of an amp with this, and then you just put the sliders wherever you want and it just boosts it nicely. But in this case, I'll just bring the volume and gain sliders back to 0 dB and you'll just see that we lost a lot of the gain there. And that's just a few ways I go about boosting the front end of the amp. You want to keep things fairly tight, you want to add as much aggression as you can. You don't want things to get all muddy and flabby, so you've got to find that real sweet spot where things are just really tight and crunchy and really aggressive. But going through the VX Kraken, this thing's an absolute monster. We're going through channel 1 at the moment. And the presence control on this amp is just so cool. It almost just changes the way that the power section seems to work. If you crank it right up, you really do get that sort of like the KT88 style power valves that were in the Marshalls, and if you back it right off, you're more into that EL34 territory. It really just gives you fantastic control to dial in those different Marshall models. I really think it's cool. So many kilotones at your fingertips right there. And outputting the signal through the Kraken today, we're going through the 2 notes Torpedo Captor X, where we're running through a Dave Mustaine 412 V30 cab. That's his signature cab, and I've got an SM57 just pushed up to the front of it in the software there. There's presets in the description. But as always, I really hope you enjoyed the video today. Good help is hard to find, but hope you enjoyed it anyway. Take care. Bye.